All right. So today on the AgentXcel podcast, we kind of did a little takeover today. So my name is Brittini Bowers,
And I'm Desiree Cosby.
and we wanted to have this podcast today because we just attended an all women's real estate conference and we just had an absolute blast. And I'm so grateful that Desiree told me about this because I really feel like it's going to forever change my business moving forward, just with a lot of stuff that we learned there. But more importantly, I think just like plugging into a community that supports you and your vision for your business. So, um, Desiree, why don't you start with maybe how you found this community and what made you want to go to
Yeah,
this
sure.
event?
So I found this community. It was really kind of cool is I'm in a social media coaching group, and one of the girls that I'm in this group with was like, "Hey, have you heard of Girls with Grit?" And I was like, "No, that sounds cool. What is it?" And so she plugged me into the Facebook group. That's how I got started, and just kind of watching how these women run this page and the content they put out and just kind of the community they built. I knew it was something that I wanted to be a part of. And then not long after I kind of got involved is when they announced this conference. And I just knew as soon as they announced it, I said, I'm doing this. It was really put on my heart. I want to go. So I did it. I booked my flight. I booked my airfare. I mean, same thing. Booked my hotel,
Yeah.
bought the ticket, and I thought I'm going. I'll invite everyone I know, but I'm going regardless. I don't care if I have to go alone. And so I'm grateful that you came because I think it was just such a cool trip, and we'll get into that. But I'm grateful that you jumped with me because I think it's a great, great community. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I bought my ticket literally less than 24 hours after you told me about it. I was like, yes, this sounds amazing. I can't wait to go. I personally love conferences. Like I just find they're just like really energizing. And for people who like haven't been to one before, I think it's hard to even describe. Like it just kind of seems like you don't really know what people are going to talk about because
Yeah.
especially like agendas, like they don't tell you everything that they're going to speak on. And I think it's like, what's the purpose of going to them? Like, couldn't I just watch this online? And
Yeah.
like, what would you say to someone who says that?
I think what I hear a lot is, I just don't have the time to go to sit in a room. Like I can, yeah, aren't there replays? Can I catch some of that? Can you give me the highlights?
Mhm.
And I think that you don't understand the value of being in these rooms until you get in these rooms. And so there's just an energy that comes with it. There's just these relationships that are formed with people sitting right next to you that you have no idea what path that's going to lead you on. And it's just an experience that you can't get by sitting and watching a replay on your iPhone while drinking a cup of coffee. It's just not the same.
I totally agree. There's like an energy about these conferences too. And it's not just like the speakers and, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's so motivating. Like I can't wait to like go back home and like start implementing stuff in my business. Like once I attend one of these.
Yeah.
And I think it's different all the time. And I think that even if you're hearing something that you might have heard in a different variation before, it, it seems newer and fresher and just something that you just want to take on.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes, it's buried and then you hear it again
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. This just gave me another spin on it. I'm ready to take this to your point and just start implementing. Now, that's the trick is the implementation, and we'll eventually get to that part.
Yeah, that is
But
the trick.
yeah, I think we can get strategic about that. But there, yeah, you just never know. I just look at it as just putting together this big puzzle. I'm working on this big puzzle, and this puzzle is just refining my business every single day. How can I make it better? How can I serve people better? How can I serve my team better? And every time I attend this event, I get at least one more puzzle piece to kind of finish that big picture. I'm not convinced it will ever be completely finished because I love
Mhm.
learning, but it's probably the single biggest propeller in my business are these events.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I can pinpoint that too. Um, just any event I've ever been in the past, there's at least like one big thing that we take away from that. And I think that's what you have to remember too, is like this is an investment in your business. Like it was not cheap to go to this
It was
event, like
not cheap.
at
We
all.
spent some
Like,
money,
yeah, but
more
I
money than we should have, but
probably, yeah. But I think it's just one of those things. You have to look at it as an investment in yourself, in your business, and putting yourself in rooms with women or men that are smarter than you and that are doing things differently than you. And I think when you get stuck in your bubble is when you're like, oh, okay, this doesn't work for me because XYZ. And it's like, no, listen to other people's stories because maybe it doesn't work for you because there was one thing that you weren't implementing correctly. And you listen to that person, you're like, man, if I just would have known that maybe 6 months ago, maybe that would have worked better for me. And so I think
exactly.
those are like those little puzzle pieces that you that you mentioned before. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Like, oh, this is what I needed. Oh my gosh. You mean it's this simple? I was
Yeah.
just missing this part. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So I want to talk a little bit about some maybe mind shifts that we had while we're talking about this little topic of learning little pieces and implementing them.
Yeah.
Because there was one that I had a big mind shift over, and that was a lot about content creation and putting yourself out there on social media or just in front of your clients in various different ways through client events, just through, informational content that you put out. And I think for me, there's so much talk about that. It was always really hard for me to relate to it. And I think because there's so many different ways you can go about it, it becomes a little like overwhelming, right? So,
Totally.
I think there were several speakers that talked at the conference about, content creation, social media, things of that sort. But I found they all broke it down in different various ways that were manageable. And I'm like, man, if they could do that, I could totally do that. They have a business very similar to mine, running off of, mostly referrals, repeat business. And I'm like, man, if they're not afraid to put themselves out there in front of those people, like I shouldn't be either. Like we're the same, right? So I think that was like a bigger mind shift for me just because I'm sure you are the same way. I think about posting a video and I'm like, who's going to care about this? Who's
Yes.
going to watch this? Like, what are they going to say about me? And I really think like no one cares that much. Like,
I don't
think
think
we
they do.
overthink.
Yeah. We overthink. And I've kind of found a piece, and, I'm guilty of those same thoughts, but I've kind of landed on if they're going to speak negatively or if they're going to judge me in some way because of a piece of content I'm putting out, then ultimately they're not my people and they can probably just keep moving. I'm on a mission to surround myself with people who love me, and I love them, and we're building each other together. And so if you're going to talk negative or you're going to think these thoughts about me, then that's great. There was a quote that makes me think of this quote. Oh, I wish I don't want to mess it up, and I forget who said it, but basically it was something to the extent of, what other people think about you is none of your business.
Yes. I wrote that down too. That
was a big takeaway for me. I'm like, yes, it's really not my business. And if you want to make it my business, then I just don't really have time for that. So thank you, but no, thank you.
Exactly. And I think you're right. Like it does kind of like tell you who your people are. And I think that we just like, sometimes I think we think too highly of ourselves. To be honest too. Like, yeah, it's like your ego, like put it out there. Like you never know whose life you could be changing by bringing up this topic. Just like us going to this conference and learning these things. Like, and if they were afraid to bring that up during their speech or their presentation, like how would have that affected, so many other listeners in the audience? So I think
you're spot on. They had those thoughts. Those are all normal women. We saw these women out in the, in the events with us. They're just normal people. And they, they got up and they spoke to 500 ladies about these topics. And I'm sure they had those same thoughts, but I'm so grateful they overcame them because we took away so much from each of them that had they not shared, then, it's just this cycle. So the more we share, the more we all put ourselves out there, it just brings us closer together.
I think so too. I really like this whole community. Like, I think it's fun, like for people to share and that spirit of like collaboration over competition. And 100%. Like, there is more than enough business for everybody. And
I think that's the scarcity, that when that scarcity creeps in, I think the more people can make peace with that, shift to that abundance mindset instead of scarcity, then you're more willing to share. Everyone's more receptive to you sharing because they're like, oh, I'll share too. Thank you for sharing. And then we just all get better together. But that is one thing I don't see in this group is any cattiness. Never once have I seen cattiness or, I don't know. It's just this particular group. And I think a lot of the groups that we have now found ourselves in, there's just this huge dynamic around building each other and collaboration over competition. That is the phrase that runs through my head nonstop. And I'm here for it. I'm embracing it. I love it.
Yeah, me too. It is just super nice because like you've mentioned several times, like when we talk, you're like, man, this is a lonely business, and it really is. And so I just challenge like anyone out there that's listening that just feels like they don't have a community to plug into, like reach out to us. Like we'll help you, because I think that's like, you got to find somebody that, knows what you're going through, knows kind of like what the business is. And I remember like, I have lots of friends and family that, they like real estate is a topic I feel like everyone can talk about, like someone's doing something with real estate.
Right.
But it's hard to go through like your challenges with someone who's not in it 100%. So it's kind of fun to have these, friends or, collaborators in this sphere that can help you work through some of those challenges.
I agree. It's such a nuanced business and not everyone gets it, but guess who gets it? Other realtors get it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly. I do have one other mind shift. I remember we were talking, I think we were at the lobby bar and we met a couple women there, and they were talking about certain lead sources. And there was one thing that you said that like really stuck out to me. And I can't even recall, honestly, like the specific lead source, but they were like talking about, they're like, oh, well, that's expensive, or this doesn't work because of that. You're like, no, you're choosing not to put your focus on that. Like, that's how you need to rephrase it. You're choosing not to invest in that. And I think that was so important. And again, maybe I'm like paraphrasing your words a little bit, but just like that, I was like, man, that is true. Like, you're choosing, to let these things work for you or not work for you. Very little like that we do in this business, I feel like is something that we do and we have no control over. I think we have a control over a lot more than we realize. And so I don't, that I wish I could remember exactly what you said perfectly, but I know that was the gist of it.
I definitely get that. That's the way I think a lot. So I'm not surprised that I said that. I don't remember that specific conversation, but I definitely feel like that. We choose what we're going to focus on. So there's all these lead sources out there. They all cost us something. They cost us time, energy, monetarily, which time, specifically translates into money. But yeah, I think that you're choosing to focus on certain things.
One of the other, it was like two women that we were talking to. Like, one of them was kind of just jumping back into real estate. The other one has been in real estate. And like, I remember like you corrected them like gently twice with like something that they said, and you like changed their words.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, man, I was like, that's good. Like,
you know what that I have been playing a lot as part of, who was it? Jessica Woodback.
Yeah.
That's her name, right? Jessica Woodback. She is the things to say. Oh,
exactly.
I'm gonna not exactly like, what to
how
say.
Can we not say?
Can't say the title correctly, but the theme of the book for sure. I'm definitely taking with me, and it is just how you twist those words, because we're saying what we're thinking. So if we can change our words, then we're changing the thoughts behind the words, and it's just a total mind shift.
Yeah. So any other mind shifts that you had while we were there? Just like things that you're like, man, I never thought of it like that in that way.
I think, the biggest mind shift that came from me was when we were talking about, apparently time is a big event for me right now. Event's probably not the right word, but that everything that I seem to retain kind of focused around my time and how I'm spending it, how I'm choosing to allocate it. Mm-hmm. So some of the takeaways, I forget who had us do the exercise where we kind of label the things that we do on a daily basis.
Jordan.
Yeah. Is that okay? Kirsten. Yeah. Kirsten. So sorry, girl. We liked you. You were cool. Yeah. No, she had us do that, where we put down the 10 things that we spend a lot of time on, and then who else could we assign those things to, and just even putting pen to paper on that and seeing how I allocate my time. And I complain that I don't have enough time to get everything done that I need to do. And actually I do. I just choose to spend it differently. Mm-hmm. Putting pen to paper on that really brought some ahas to me on just time allocation and leveraging my time by, assigning tasks to other people or other entities to actually get done the things I need to get done.
I would actually say that was probably like one of the biggest overall takeaways just from the feedback in the group, because I don't know about you, but I saw like constantly like, I am no longer doing laundry. I'm using this website.
Hey, I did it. Someone picked up my laundry from my front porch, washed it, dried it at their house, and delivered it back on my hangers. It was beautiful. I'll never do laundry again. Yeah. That's an exaggeration, but I really won't.
Yeah. I mean, and I like saw people do like meal service preps, and it was just amazing. Like, all these people are like, hey, I implemented this, and this off of just like that one. That was probably honestly like a 10-minute chat that she had, right? She gave us a couple of minutes to write down items, and it's like, those are the little things that we hold on to. And it's like, why are we holding on to this? Like, I'm not like the best at this.
Yeah. I felt like when we were all going through that exercise together, kind of an example of why you go to these events, I kind of felt like a collective, just like sigh of relief in the room. Mm-hmm. And it just like, it even got a little lighter. Like, everyone kind of had these ahas as they're looking at their time. It's almost like we all gave each other permission to let go of some of these things that we hoard for some reason, probably feeding into that whole ego idea. But there's someone who does my laundry a lot better than me because it actually gets done.
Exactly.
And so,
And you're not wearing wrinkled clothing because it's sat
no,
forever in a basket. No, and I think that also like as women too, like we have, different expectations of like what we should hold on to probably in the home. And I think like between the laundry and, grocery shopping, like I don't think I've actually went to the grocery store since we've been back. I've just done like grocery pickup. I'm like, why am I going there? Like this is the
Right.
same thing I would get if I was going there myself. Saves me like an hour of time because I just get so distracted in a grocery store. Like I
Oh,
love
I do too.
to cook and I'm like, oh, look at this cute new thing and I'm going to buy
Yeah.
this.
All the little snacks, all the impulse buys.
Yeah,
I'm saving money by paying someone else to do it
I
for me.
know, right? So, but I think that, and like we mentioned, the laundry and cleaning your house, like those are all things you can be outsourced. Now, obviously, if you're not in the financial,
Right.
way where you can do it, but you also have to think about like your hourly rate is high, right? Like if you really broke it down to what you make per hour, it's probably a lot higher than, focusing your time on cleaning your house when you could, be focusing your time on lead prospecting
And
or
I think that's the key though, is you don't hire someone to clean your house and then go sit by the pool and drink a Mai Tai. You take
yeah.
that time that you're saving and actually implement something or do an activity that helps generate more income for yourself.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that was a great one too, because it was just like, I think when you said the sigh of relief, it really did feel like that. So
it really did feel like that. I don't know if it was just my own and then
yeah,
I was
we're
lighter,
like,
but I really felt like it was across the room. Yeah.
yeah. And I can just tell like that was probably the most written thing about after the conference is like,
You're
I,
right.
I started doing this, started doing, because I think it's also one of the easiest to let
Yeah,
go of too.
I agree.
Like, you like, we have a lot of leverage built in our lives. I know you do too. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, but like, what kind of leverage are you holding back from? And
Right.
so, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
great topic.
Yes.
Now there are so many ideas that I know we both had. We kept like looking at each other like, oh, I gotta do that. I gotta do that. But I have to say, like, one of the ones that stuck out to me right away was the client Facebook groups. Like, so simple. I've actually heard this like many times before, people doing that. And I was like, why do we not still have this in our business? Like, I just don't understand. So,
Yeah.
but really leveraging that client Facebook group to not only be a great source for them to come back to you as a realtor, but also like a great source to like where you can love on your people, right? That's what I
Right.
heard a lot is like love on your people in there, do giveaways, host your client events. It's a great way to like subsect your people from like your regular, Facebook where it's, just kind of like everybody, they might not all be past clients or, in your network of people, but that
Yeah.
was one that I was just like, man, like there are some people doing some really cool stuff in here and just providing like massive value. Like I really liked the client appreciation aspect, like the VIP client list, but there's even people that were doing community groups. I know you run a community group for Facebook too. And just like the leverage and like helpfulness that they were providing in there for the people in their community. Like I remember them talking about, they have like a subgroup for babysitters. And I'm like, man, that is so smart. Cause how often do you see that like in your neighborhood, pages or next door,
Right.
like, do you have a babysitter for the, and I think that's just so like smart to put yourself at the hub of that. So
Yeah, that was a big takeaway for me too. I just think I know you and I both come from a similar, direction of we love to love on our people. And I think that
mhm,
whole room did. I think,
mhm,
and so hearing all the different ways that we could love on our people and keep it nice and organized and
mhm,
actually connect to those people. I think I agree with you. That was a big thing that I would like to implement too. I'm struggling with that personally a little bit because I am in two different states. And
yeah,
so you know my struggles with trying to balance both groups of people. And I think I've finally landed on they can just all hang out together. I can
yeah,
love on them all together. But it was a really cool thing to start. I hadn't really considered it and I wouldn't be considering it had we not gone. And so I've just been,
I agree.
designing it every which direction in my head ever since.
Yeah, I'm almost ready to launch it. I'm just kind of finalizing because I listened to a few podcasts that were recommended after that about, the best way to kind of like launch your community group or whether that be for your clients or, your actual community that you live in. And a lot of them implemented a giveaway in the beginning to kind of revamp information. So,
Ah,
clean up your database a little bit, like ask for some like birthdays, things like that in there, so you can continue to love on them in different ways. So I'm just kind of finalizing the details of that, but I got like the graphics already ready to go, that like everything's ready. I just have to press
Perfect.
go. But
Can't wait
I
for you to
can't,
do that. And I
I
can see you go.
know. I can't wait for it either, honestly. I think it's going to be one of those things that I'll look back and be like, why didn't we do this sooner? You know, and I think, again, it wasn't until like I saw the success of those other people that were doing it. I'm like, man, like I can totally do this. This is a
Well,
Facebook group.
I saw that click for you. You kind of almost looked at me and then we walked out of the room and that's the first thing you said. You said, I'm going to do that. I want to
Yeah,
do that. And you were just coming
absolutely.
off the heels of your client event, your super successful client event. So I think it was the perfect timing for you. Yeah. I can't wait to see you do that.
I know. I'm just
When are you doing that? Let me accountability here.
Yeah. Actually, my goal is to have that done by next Monday. So have it launched next Monday. So we're going to be in Shareholder Summit this week. So it'll be a little bit out, but like I said, I'm just finalizing the last things of the giveaway and going to start that. So
awesome.
Which leads me into another thing that I wanted to implement right away, which was auditing my database. Like,
yes,
I always felt we kept a pretty clean database until like I actually went in there and I was like, oh my gosh, no, this is so disorganized.
yes.
So that's something that I'm actually in the process of going through right now. We don't have like, so let me be clear. We have a couple different ways we categorize people. So we have all of our leads that come in, but then we also have like our actual network. So we use Follow Up Boss. They're all staged network. And then in there, we have like different tags for closed and things like that. But it's just a mess. Like it really
Agreed.
is. So
I'm with you.
We're taking time right now. We keep spreadsheets of all of our past closings just for the year. That's just how we track everything. And so we're in the process right now of going through year by year and making sure everyone's organized. Number one, making sure we have current information for everybody. And the giveaway is going to help a little bit with that, with like birthdays, things like that. And then we're also going to make sure like our homeowners are on HomeBot. Like it's a great resource for our homeowners. Like, and so just making sure like everyone, you know, is on that just so that they can get those good resources. And then also we know how to categorize people too, just like to better give them information that actually is applicable to them. Because my renters in my organization like don't need to hear, you know,
right,
best things to do, you know, to sell your home. They're not selling a home right now. So I think that cleanup process was another thing where I was like, I got to go back and do this. Like this has been too long since I've audited my database and I really need to make sure I have that cleaned up. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm in the process. Ironically, I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet, but I'm doing that right now too. I had Sarah Weller came to my house last week and we had an implementation 2-hour event that we had specific things we wanted to accomplish, which we did. I'm very proud of us.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, it was really great. But I opened up my Follow Up Boss thinking I've got my ducks in a row. I'm like, wait a minute. After I actually looked at it, I'm like, okay, we need a cleanup day. So yeah, we're going through that right now too.
And I think there's so many different ways you can clean up your database, but I think the thing that I walked away with is just like, hey, like clean it up in a way that's going to be the easiest for you to market to your people in a way that's helpful, you know? And I think that's going to be the most important thing is just keeping that at the forefront of like, how can I best serve the people that know, like, and trust me? And I think by not having that cleaned up for so long, I feel like kind of was a disservice because everyone's just getting everything. And I don't think that that's appropriate. So,
right. It almost takes away the value of what we're trying to give them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and on that topic, you know, someone had mentioned, and I wish I could remember from my notes, but they're a lot like chicken scratch because I was writing so quickly. But someone had mentioned they have like a client care coordinator, and we do have like an assistant in our office. She's amazing. And so I kind of want to give her more of that role too. So I still want to be the one, you know, reaching out to my clients and, you know, on our quarterly basis that we normally do and, you know, being the one to invite them. But I would love for her to like organize that for me and help me out with that. And so obviously to give her something that she can run with, like I'm going to build it too, you know what I mean? Just so I have a really good understanding so I can train her on that. So if you don't have someone like, you know, you don't need someone, I'm not saying that, but I just think it's going to be good for just reaching out to them in like a systematic order, like more than we already do. And just, I think a little bit more tailored, making sure no one gets left behind.
I love it. I love it. And you are the best system builder ever. So it will be fantastic.
Thank you.
But, and even if you don't need that person now, if you build the system correctly, you will get to a point where you probably do need that person. And then being able, you will be so busy at that point, having something they can plug and play, it will be just essential to leveraging your business. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was I wish I could remember who shared that so I can give them credit, but
yeah,
I can't recall right now.
I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember that. I remember that topic, but yeah, there's so many great speakers. Yeah. So much good info. It was all kind of jumbled together at this point.
I know. It's funny because I have like 1,000 screenshots too, of like everyone's presentation and stuff. And then I always thought it was organized. And then the Property Geeks went up there and they did their presentation. And I was like, oh my gosh, just look at how organized you are in this presentation.
You're amazing. I know. I think I just sat there with my jaw dropped, like in awe of,
I know. I'm like, that's goals right there for organism.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So what were some of your additional things that you wanted to implement, whether it be like an idea or like an actual like straightforward, I'm doing this?
Some things I came away with, and I think it was towards the tail end of conference when we started talking about all the different again, I guess my theme is just love on my people. That's what's pushing me right now, but just different ways that I can do that, different ideas and ahas, like, oh, you can do this at this point in a transaction, or, 6 months after a transaction, you can do this. I kind of struggled with that. I get my clients, I love on them. They're a huge part of my life, and then they disappear. I'm guilty of that. So I don't like that component of it. I don't want to be so busy that I don't want them to feel like it was just about a transaction for me, because it wasn't. So all of these great ideas of ways to stay loving on them after a transaction was just a big thing that I plan to implement. So I've kind of got that systematized now. I want to get it, more organized in a way to share with my assistant, so we can be intentional about implementing that system of just the aftercare, I guess that might be a way to call it. So yeah, that's one big thing I want to implement for sure.
Yeah, it's always so weird because you talk to them every day, and then it's like, oh, like how do I?
Yeah, I almost like mourn a loss.
I know.
Like, oh wait, oh that's weird. And then before you know it, 2 years has gone by, and it almost feels insincere to reach out, even though it's very sincere. It's just this weird. So I want to remove that friction. I forget who talked about friction. We talked about friction. I know. We're going to need to take better notes next convention, so we can give everyone appropriate credit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just removing any piece of friction that gets between me and my clients, anything that can cause friction that's within my control.
Right.
And so that's completely one of them.
Yeah. That's a really
good aftercare. One. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I feel like that was a very common theme with so many people. And obviously a lot of people did events and things like of that sort, but I think it was like, they're not forgetting about their people.
No, they're not,
by any means of the imagination. Like they have like a full process in-house of like how they're going to communicate with them after, and like how they're going to stick with them throughout their life. Right.
Yep. So, and they were so sharing with what that process looked like. It was amazing. So I have so many notes on how to create that system. Yeah. It was so helpful.
No credit, but lots of notes.
No credit, but lots of, you guys were all amazing.
One thing too, there was, I think this was Renee Funk that was speaking, and she's amazing. If you haven't looked her up, look her up, like follow her on Instagram. She said one thing too, and I was like, man, this is such a great conversation starter. It was a conversation starter because she was talking about how to build like a luxury brand, right? How to get into that luxury space. I hear that all the time, by the way, that people want to be in. I'm like, I just want to be in the
I just want to be in the space.
Yeah.
Just put me
people. In the space.
Yeah. I just want to serve some people, right?
Yeah. But so she was explaining, like how you do that and, go where the clients are, things of that sort. But she said one of the best conversation starters for her when she's talking to people about real estate is, how many years have you been currently living in your home? And how's the home performing for you? I was like, that is so brilliant, because people, first of all, like love to talk, right? And that's such a great question without having any ulterior motive. It just opens up the conversation.
Well, yeah, because we're sincerely interested in that question. I really want to know, I want to know these things about people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, like, for example, Chris and I built our house in 2019. So we've been living here, roughly 3 years, almost 4 years now. And, if someone asked me that question, I'd be like, oh yeah, like I love my house for this and this reason. And then, these are two things I wish I would have known. Right. I would
100%.
have wished that I was paying attention to the lighting situation in the Jack and Jill bathroom, because the only light is over the shower and it's extremely dark in there if you have both doors closed. Like little things like that, right? So like, how is the home performing for you? I think that also opens up to the conversation about their lives, right? Getting to know them on a personal level. Oh, it's great. We became empty nesters this year. Our child has went off to college. Asking them more about that, just really building those authentic relationships, like that will come off of that question. And I was like, and that is a great question to
That
ask.
is a great question to ask. Yeah, that's
I
pretty
like it
golden.
too because it's not invasive. Like
It's not. It's not. And it's actually very interesting to hear about. And it's very interesting for them to speak about. Yeah. No, I think that's gold right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I was like, I'm gonna frame that, put it in my office.
You're gonna cut it out in your Cricut vinyl.
Yes, exactly. But I think that was what was when I was thinking about like ways to, interact with my people too. I was trying to think of like, what can I say to them that would like be valuable or like start that. And I am sure like you feel the same way too. Like when anyone ever hears you're in real estate, what's the first question they ask you? Like,
how's the market?
100%, right? So,
Yes.
and then you'll tell them your spiel, which I always tell agents, like especially new agents, like you better have an answer to that question.
Yeah. You need to understand the market. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say on the topic of exactly what to say, Phil Jones, he came and spoke. You were there when he came and spoke to us. And I remember him saying, good, why? What are you planning to do? Right. That was his answer to that. And I was like, oh gosh, so brilliant too. but anyway, you should have a question in case or you should have an answer in case they want specific, items answered. Like
100%. Yeah.
You have to know the market.
If you want to be treated like an expert, you better be the expert.
Yeah. But what a great follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
How long have you lived in your home?
I love that.
Performing for you. So.
Yeah, I love those two components together. And interestingly enough, how did we hear Phil Jones speak? We went to an event. Yeah, and that was an incredible day.
That was the first time I met you, actually.
I know.
And I like immediately connected with you because you're like, I remember we were all kind of going through certain challenges, and you're like, well, it's not really a challenge. You're like, but I am having like 70 something women over to my house for a wine and cheese event. I was like, okay, number one, I want to be invited. Number two, like, oh my gosh, like, how are you getting that? So I'd love if you could really quick. I know it's a little off topic, but not really. But I want you to talk a little bit about your community group, because I think that this is right on par with like, the things that they were talking about at the conference and what that's been for you.
Yeah, I built this community group. It was just on a whim. It was not intentional to be designed with real estate in mind. It was coming off the heels of COVID. We had all been, recluses in our house. Everyone had been locked up. And I had just moved into this neighborhood. And so I need to be around people. I wanted to know who the people around me were going to be. I wanted to be around them. And so I just built this random group. Don't ask me why I named it. The Real Housewives of Ironwood Crossing.
I love it.
To be my neighborhood. But I think it probably drew my kind of people in because, I just decided I'm going to throw this event, see how many ladies are ready to get back out in the world and come over and see what kind of reception I get. So I created the event, threw it on a big community board we have, and the response just kind of blew me away. And so I thought that was kind of the first seed that planted for me about the need for community in just different aspects, but especially for women. But I just threw it out there and I had this huge response, and I thought, okay, either these women are really lonely or they really like free wine and cheese, but either way, I'm going to invite them to my home. So
maybe a little
bit
of
it
both.
Catered. Yeah, a little bit of both. And it ended up being a little bit of both. And it was a blast. I can't remember. There was, I think 67 or something ended up coming. I had people inside and outside and all over my house. And it was awesome. Like there are still conversations we had that first night that in subsequent events get brought up every time. And we just laugh. It was really an incredible event. So I'm hosting one again mid-June. And I'm expecting a very similar turnout. And yeah, I think if you just build it, they will come kind of thing. And it's exactly what I did.
That's awesome.
And they're coming. Wine and cheese. In my neighborhood. Come on over.
I love it. It's like a mousetrap.
You can come too.
Yeah, I'm going to come. Yeah. So I just think, but going back to what you said, like people are craving community. And so I think that's like what draws us to events like this. And I think that, I just would like to encourage anyone out there that's listening, like plug into some type of community. I think that's super important. It's going to be good for your business. It's going to be good to share ideas with people. And honestly, even if no one listens, I feel like this is helpful just for us too, to like kind of recap like the things. And it's fun, the different things. That's why I love attending events like with another person, because I feel like you can both listen to the same speaker and come away with totally different topics, right? Like, oh my gosh, like this is great. This is what they were talking about. And I love that. I'm going to implement that. And you're like, man, I didn't even hear that because I was so, focused on what they just said, writing down my notes. I missed that part. So I think that's just super important too, is meeting people. And we met some new friends. We met lots of new friends, but
we met lots of new friends. I remember faces. I missed some names, but now we're friends on social media and I remember their names. And I mean, it was really so much fun.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
We danced our tails off. We laughed. It was a blast. It was really so fun. Yeah.
Well, and I think also, those relationships that you build with other realtors also in different states from you, I think there's a lot to be valued in that as well, because they most likely do business very different than you, right? And here in Arizona, like we have a very different way of doing real estate than certain other states, right? Where they're like attorney states,
right?
Or just like different challenges altogether. And so I think it's kind of nice to speak with those people about like, hey, like we may not have experienced that yet, but like I can feel this is coming, right? So how did you guys get through that? I mean, I remember watching the Colorado market for years, right? And I was like, this is gonna come here. Like it's gonna be this way. And I wasn't even in real estate yet. I was working at a brokerage here, like on the corporate side. And we were heavy in that data because we were also in that market. And we're like, man, I can just see this trickling down. And it did. I think also learning about like what other people have done to navigate through their markets is another invaluable takeaway that you would never get if you never attended that event and met that person.
I cannot agree more. Yeah.
To go without saying, I mean, also you can build great referral relationships. So I know you have good news about that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So far from attending this one event, I have 2 referrals from realtors who are also part of the group. And, I mean, that's just a side effect of going to these events. Of course, it's super exciting. It helps my business, helps their business, but it's just the relationships are so key in being a realtor. You do not have to do it alone. You should not do it alone. You should do it in a very big group of people, and we will all take care of each other. And I think that's really a testament to that, already having 2 referrals come down the pipe.
Well, not only that, but I think like it's one thing to like, hear about a great realtor or get a referral from someone. I think that's great too. But like when you can actually tell your client, like, hey, I've met this person, like you're going to love them. This is, and that they're going to treat your client as if like how you would treat them. I think it's an easy thing to do. Right. So I already I think that's just something that, cannot be undervalued. So, but I think on that same topic, like you do have to put yourself out there. And I'm not really like an introvert necessarily, but like definitely I'm not as outgoing as you are, right? I mean,
you got there.
I got there, but it's not as easy for me to talk to somebody, new, or like I could just tell like you just can't wait to talk to somebody, which I love so much because it's so straight.
I'm like energy. A little dog, like who wants to talk? Who wants to talk? Yeah.
No, but it's such
so we balance
energy.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think like if you know what I mean? Like you have to put yourself out there to introduce yourself to people, talk with people, learn. I think that's another integral part of like going to those events. Like you can't just keep to yourself and stay in your bubble. Like you really have to get out and meet people.
Yeah. I mean, you can. It would be really actually easy to do. You go sit in this room and then go hide out in your hotel room. But yeah, you will not get the full experience that way. You have to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since things keep coming to my mind too about what we learned. But I think if we were to summarize it, it's really about building not only a community for yourself to plug into, but also a community for your clients to plug into. Like they're also looking for that, right? They want the resources that you have. And maybe it's not at the timing that you're ready to give it to them, but like if you develop a community where like those questions can be answered and they know that they can go there for those resources, that's what you need to build. And so it's really about building community. On top of that, kind of digging down into your database, like really auditing that, making sure like you have people where they're supposed to be so that you can not only market to them appropriately, but also reach out to them appropriately and really know like where they're at in their stage of life.
Yes.
And then I think there's just, just the loving on people. Like you got to put in the work to do that, build those relationships.
You really do. And it just, the return on that is incredible. And I'm not talking from a financial standpoint. I'm talking just the effect it will have on your heart and soul. It's just, you love on people and they're gracious and they love on you right back. And that's just really what fills my cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Well, I think that's a really good note to end on. And then Desiree and I also have some really exciting news. We're going to be starting our own podcast, so we won't need to hijack this one.
Thanks,
So we have a ton of really great things that we're going to speak on during that podcast. We have a lot of really great people that we're going to be interviewing. So we will have more information coming out on that soon, but definitely be on the lookout for that. It's going to be great. If you think you have, a person that we should interview or really talk to, like, we'd encourage you to reach out to us. We'll put something in the show notes on how you can get a hold of us, but definitely more to be coming on that soon. So looking forward to that.
I'm so excited for that. And I think we're going to talk about some really great topics. And, that leads me to just say again, if you're listening to this and you are like, hey, this seems like something that I like what they're talking about. I want some more info on this topic, or I have some ideas to share about a specific topic. If you're looking for a community to plug into, please reach out to us. We have some really cool things going. We have some really great breakfast meetups, and Britt's about to implement some really cool meetups that are going to happen weekly. And we just have a really cool community that we're building, and we would love for you to reach out and join us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all for today. So we'll stay tuned on our next venture.
Woohoo. Can't wait.
All right, bye.
Bye.